Welcome everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you sit. I'm Alan Divak. Excuse the background. We're in the middle of apartment renovations. I hope the sound doesn't get worse, but anyway, I am program director of the Lucius and Littauer Foundation in New York, and also with Josh Arno, the co-chair of the Social Venture Fund for Jewish Arab Equality and Shared Society in Israel. I'm really happy to be, that we're able to do this program today. When IATF and the SVF met together back in May, one of the areas that the participants in the meeting really wanted to explore was to learn more about the political landscape within the Arab community, both structurally and in terms of people's aspirations. And we'll hear more about the second issue today. So I'm just going to turn it over to Liron to introduce Rula.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Alan. So as Alan said, this is the second call in a series on exploring that we're doing with in partnership with the Social Venture Fund. I'm Liron, director of the Interagency Task Force on Israeli Arab Issues. It's a second in the series exploring Arab political discourses and streams in Arab society. Last week, we heard an overview of political trends, bodies, and influence in Arab society from Dr. Amir Fahouri, and Miranda just pasted a video of the recording of that call in our chat. This week, we're delighted to be joined by Dr. Rula Hardal for political discourse related to shared and substantial citizenship, sort of looking forward. Dr. Hardal is a research fellow at the Kogod Center for the Study of Jewish and Contemporary Thought at the Shalom Hartman Institute, and a lecturer at the Arab American University on the campus for advanced studies in Ramallah. She is a researcher, an educator, an activist, and board member in various NGOs, and has been developing content and thinking and concepts around citizenship and political discourse in Israel, inclusive of the Arab society for a long time. Rula is here. She's going to share her thoughts and insights with us. She can speak for, she can give us a whole lecture if we would like. She's prepared something like 25-30 minutes to share with us. If you have questions relevant to what she's talking about, we're happy to make this an informal conversation. Feel free to raise your hand and we will politely find a way to call on you. If you do not want to interrupt the flow, you can also put your questions in the chat and we'll either find the right moment to surface it or park it for when Rula is finished. But we do encourage opening this up to a discussion. I think that our discussion with Amir last week showed just how fruitful and interesting a set of issues this is at this moment in Israel. So with no further ado, please, Rula, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for the opportunity to be with you today. And yes, we can do it less formal if you would like to. And I will start actually from the last meeting we had, Shahira and Liron. I'm not going to directly to my topics, speaking about power sharing or having a seat on the table in terms of political participation of the Arab political leadership in the Israeli or within the Israeli political system, and also the subject of citizenship. I will continue a little bit continue and then refer to my subject. A little bit the subject you started to discuss last week with my colleague and friend Amir, speaking about the crisis of the Arab or among the Arab political leadership. And I will argue that we have actually three kinds of crises that I actually can find when we speak about the Arab Palestinian citizens of the state of Israel. The first one is the crisis of the Arab political leadership, parties, as well as less formal committees like the follow-up higher committee for the Arab citizens in Israel and the follow-up committee of the mayors and heads of municipalities and local councils. The second crisis is what I call it a crisis in the relationship between the Palestinian Arab citizens and the State of Israel. And I'm going to expand a little bit about it immediately. And the third one is actually the crisis of the State of Israel that we are facing now, that we are all watching very carefully and very concerned. And I call it the internal national political legal crisis of the State of Israel, which is more a wider, deeper crisis. And my argument here that we cannot separate all of these three crises from each other. They are connected, intersected, interlocked, and they influence and they are influenced from each other. So if we, and besides, we cannot also analyze them and understand them without having a broader analysis of the regional, of the whole national discourse, the Palestinian as well as the Zionist one, and from political, economic developments in the world. And I will explain. If I go back to the, before I continue and explain a little bit my analysis of the three crises, I will say something because it was part of our discussion. Everything I say, and I'm very critical when we speak about the Arab-Palestinian political leadership, when we speak about the Palestinian political leadership in general in the West Bank and Gaza Strip and the Palestinian national discourse, the Palestinian national movement, I'm very critical, but I'm also very critical when I speak about the State of Israel. But it doesn't mean in any way that I'm not in a very reconciled position as a Palestinian citizen of the State of Israel, as a Palestinian who feels national and symbolic belonging to the Palestinian people. But also I'm very reconciled with being a citizen of the State of Israel, and more specifically, with the right of the Jewish people to have the right of self-determination as a national group, and not only as an ethnic religious group, and to have this right here in this space between the river and the sea. And I also accept the right of the two national groups, the Jewish as well as the Palestinian group, for not only self-determination in this space between the Jordan and the sea, but also the belonging, the historical belonging to this place as a homeland. And sometimes it's not only historical belonging, it's more sometimes religious, theological belonging. So after saying this, and I believe that we can find solutions to live together in a better context and better relations and better situation, but it's another subject I'm not going to focus on. Referring to the first crisis of the Arab political leadership, I think you talked a little bit about, maybe not a little bit, maybe a little bit more about this subject last week with Amir, and I think it's not actually something specific to the Arab political leadership and Arab political parties in Israel. I think it's something global that we are witnessing in the last maybe 2 decades, 1.5 decades. a decrease of the strength of political ideologies and political parties in the Western world. I think you also, as Americans, you can say a lot about this in the United States. But still, we have other problems when we speak about the political leadership in Israel. I think one of the problems of the Arab political leadership that they didn't succeed to transform their terminology, ideology, and political activism and strategies to the developments and transformations that we witnessed in Israel, in the region, and globally during the last 3-4 decades. When we search deeper the strategies and the ideologies and the terminologies of all of these parties from the 70s, 80s of the last century until now, we don't see actually a significant transformation regarding themselves as as a minority, has a specific condition and status in the state of Israel, and regarding their relationship to the state of Israel, and regarding also the developments, the demographic, the structural, sociological developments and changes that the Israeli society, as well as the political changes among political parties, the political discourse, they couldn't adapt actually in their ideology and strategies to all of these changes. On the other side, it's part also from the weakness and from the failure of the whole Palestinian discourse. If we would like to expand also our analysis, Palestinians in Israel as citizens of the state of Israel, and Palestinians in general, they don't have, since the failure of Oslo, they don't have any orientation. What do they want? On the other side, I think the most Palestinian group who knows a little bit more what he wants regarding its collective identity, the civil and the national one, is the Palestinian citizens of the state of Israel. And if we follow all of the bills done by Israeli research institutions and NGOs, you will see that there is an increased tendency and very stable tendency also in all of these bills when they ask Palestinian citizens in Israel about their civil identity and about the future of their life. They continue to emphasize year after year their belonging to the state of Israel and taking their Israeli citizenship seriously. And here we come to the gap actually between the political leadership and political parties and the population. The Arab Palestinian citizens decided that they would like to emphasize or to keep, I don't say that all of them, but the majority of them, they are very aware about their historical roots and national belonging and affiliation. And they don't see any contradiction between being part of the Palestinian people and being citizens of the state of Israel. The political parties are not succeeding to treat this combination in terms of political strategies and political actions when it comes to their political campaigns in any elections in the state of Israel. And it brings always to two kinds of clashes, a clash between some of these political parties with the other political parties, the Jewish Zionist political parties, and with part of the potential people who would like or who usually vote to these parties, and I mean the Arab Palestinian citizens. And that's why we see also a decreasing percentage of participating of the elections. Besides, people see that these political parties not only are not able to represent their interests properly, the fragmentation between these parties, and especially during the last election, it brought about another disappointment from the Arab political parties. And that's why we see during the last 5 years, during the last 5 elections that we have in these 5 years, different percentage of voting among the Arab citizens of Israel, according to the level of fragmentation or union between the political parties.
Rula, is this, I'm curious if I can ask for a clarification, if you would, and if it's not a good time, we can also park it. Last week, the tension that we talked about between
I don't hear you.
Yaron, you muted.
Sorry, last week, the tension that I think you're referring to between parties and between parties in the electorate, we talked about as a tension between more of a pragmatic politics and more of a national politics. Would you map this out the same way? The desire to seek budgets, civil equality within for the purpose of narrowing gaps, and the purpose of saying no, we have a whole national identity, and if you don't talk about the occupation, if you don't talk about the fundamental problem between Jews and Arabs, then you're selling us out. Would you map out this tension that you're speaking about in the same way?
I think it's one of the fragmentations. It's not all of the fragmentations, and I don't think that the most Arab citizens really do this distinction between civil and national issues. I think most of there is a tendency among us scholars to see only both sides of the society. The citizens who are more nationals and emphasize their national identity, being Palestinians, and the other side who doesn't care about their Palestinian identity. They just would like to be normal citizens of the state of Israel and focus on their rights. I think we are mistaking the whole picture if we do this distinction without paying attention to another factors. It's also the disappointment, the deep disappointment from the Arab political parties that they don't offer actually any improvement, any advancement during decades, be it when they emphasize the national aspects and ending the occupation, or when they emphasize like Ra'am, like the Arab United list of Mansour Abbas, when they emphasize or run mainly to the elections based on the civil identity, and focus on budget allocations and the whole discourse of rights. I think we should, or political parties should be more serious about analyzing the complex of identity of the citizens they would like to represent. And I mean here the Arab citizens of the state of Israel. The majority of the people, they are concerned mainly about their life and about their citizenship, but also they would like also to see a political solution for the national conflict that we live with since 75 years. On the other hand, I cannot ignore, or I cannot blame actually only this interaction between the population or the society and the political parties, the Arab political parties. And I cannot also only blame and focus on criticizing the failure and the weakness of these political parties. We ignore another aspect, the state of Israel as a state apparatus, as ideology. And there, I do conceptualize the relation. It's a very big, deep subject when we speak about how can we actually conceptualize and understand the relationship between the Arab citizens of the state of Israel and the state and the Jewish majority from 48 until now. We can speak about, I think we can speak in 2-3 lectures about this subject, but I will use a term that I started to use it recently in my lectures to define this relationship among all of, throughout all of these decades, and I call it escalation of disposition. Escalatia shel nishul. Okay, and what I mean with that, I mean we have actually the Zionist project and the state of Israel. They started with taking from these people their homeland in 48. The Arab Palestinian citizens lose their homeland in 48. Later on, during the 60s and the 70s, they lose their dignity to be real citizens in the state of Israel, living for years under military rule. And later on, during the 70s, another parts of lands were taken also from them in the land day. Later on, we had also a little bit different periods, especially during the 90s, where we had more an optimistic vision because of Oslo, and we thought that things are going to change, including the relationship between the state of Israel and its Arab citizens. But then we had the Second Intifada and the participation or the demonstrations that the Arab citizens participated in, and 13 young people were killed by the Israeli police, although they are citizens and they just demonstrated as solidarity action with the Palestinian people.
The events of October 2000.
Yeah, October 2000, and it was actually a turning point in terms of understanding that we are not part of the state of Israel. We are not really equal citizens, and the state of Israel still treat us as enemies and as part of the Palestinian people. And then we come later on, more recently, to the year 2018, with the basic law, Israel as the homeland of the Jewish people. If you read this basic law of the national law, actually, when I read it first, the text, without being emotional and with all of my understanding of the whole situation, I felt that the state of Israel is taking from me officially, my citizenship also. On the other hand, I would like to remind you what I said before, maybe 3-4 minutes, that the Arab citizens of the state of Israel kept emphasizing their belonging to the Israeli citizenship and taking seriously their citizenship in the state of Israel. So it's not only the fragmentation between or among the Arab political parties and the two, let's say, political strategies or two narratives, the national, and we don't have only national and civil or rights approach. We have something more complicated, and I really don't know today who is not the national and what means the national. When we speak about Balad, for example, the National Democratic Front, which didn't pass the last elections. And their slogan, their main slogan since the establishment of this political party by Azmi Bshara in 96, that they want actually Israel to be the state of all its citizens. What it means actually, is it national? I don't see it as national actually. I see it as civil discourse, because it's somehow, when we speak about all countries in the world, all democratic countries, all Western countries are automatically state of all its citizens. Why cannot we, if we claim that Israel is a democracy also, why we cannot decide that Israel is going to be the state of all its citizens, even though Jewish people around the world, not only the Jewish Israeli people, consider Israel to be the homeland of the Jewish people. I personally, I don't see any contradiction, and maybe this is one of the results or solutions or strategies or new approach that we can speak about later on, when we speak about, okay, this is the situation, what can we do? I hope I answered your question, and if yes, I would like to go. Yeah,
you more than answered my question. I want to say, and I hope that it integrated with what you were going to say. I just want to say that we're at 12:30, and I want to make sure we get the rest of your points, and say that I did get a question over WhatsApp about how is what is happening in Israel today, is it an opportunity for something better, and is there a vision that people, is there a political vision that is, are there the seeds of a political vision? Hopefully this is something that you also have on in your notes.
Yeah, I do.
I would like to add to your question, Liron, excuse me, if you don't mind, Rula, regarding this issue. And if you think you're trying to analyze what's happening in the Palestinian society, if you can analyze how the Palestinian society is reacting now toward these issues, is it an opportunity? Are they using it, and why yes and why not?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for
maybe
this.
also, okay, what should happen in order to something to move?
Okay. So by answering your question, Liron, I actually spoke about the second crisis I mentioned, the relationship between the Palestinian citizens of Israel and the state, very briefly, I know. And through your two questions, Shahira and Liron, I'm going to move to the last crisis, the third one, the internal political national, maybe also legal crisis of the state of Israel, and can we consider it as opportunity or not? And besides, where are we going from here, from this crisis, from this point to the future? I think you all very informed about the very limited numbers of Arab citizens who participate, who care even to do something regarding this crisis. Most of the people feel that it's a crisis that is going to change the whole state and is going to impact them very dramatically and in a negative way in terms of their citizenship, which has been also limited when we speak about the differences between, I call it two kinds of citizenship. Citizenship for the Jewish citizens, and another kind, very limited citizenship for the Arab citizens. And they know also that they will start feeling legal restrictions and economic, social, in terms of employment, budget allocation, etc. They are aware. I think people follow very close what's going on regarding this crisis. On the other hand, Shahira, I cannot separate the behavior of the most of Arab citizens from what I explained a few minutes ago about their disappointment, not only from their political leadership who represent them within the political Israeli system, and their disappointment from the state of Israel that actually told them again and again, you are not equal citizens, you are sometimes enemies, and sometimes you are a kind of people who live here, but it's not your place. We are doing a favor with you that you live sometimes in very good conditions compared to the other part of Palestinian people who are not citizens in this space inside the homeland of the Jewish people. So on the other hand, this is my description of the whole of the behavior actually, and the attitude of the Arab citizens toward what's going on. Me personally, I cannot accept this. And I keep all the time in all lectures, interviews, in radios, TV programs, and with people I meet in my personal life. And actually, if to be more honest, I try to do something to start something with some scholars and political activists and political leaders of the political parties. And I didn't feel that people are encouraged to do something and to take this crisis and transform it into advantage and opportunity. I see in this crisis, even though I'm not optimistic and I have no idea how things are going to develop inside the state of Israel in terms of the implications of this regime transformation. It's not only legal transformation or legal reform or legal negative changes. We are speaking about very deep change of the regime of Israel and of the state of Israel. Despite this fact, I think it's an opportunity to start preparing ourselves for the future. Maybe not the very close future, because we are not sure how things are going to develop in the coming months, maybe a couple of years, but we have to start preparing ourselves for the midterm and for the long-term future. From our civil position, from being citizens of the state of Israel, and because if we don't use this crisis as opportunity, it will be more difficult to build alliances when we keep ourselves outside what's going on inside the Jewish Israeli collective. And saying this, I don't mean that Arab citizens should start now participating in the demonstrations in masses. I know it's difficult. I spoke in Kaplan in one of the demonstrations before maybe 2 months, and it was emotionally very hard for me. I have to say, standing there, although I belong to the block of organizations and groups against the occupation, the very small groups, it was very hard. The slogans don't represent me. The whole atmosphere, the amounts of thousands of Israeli flags. I don't have a place there with my complex identity. Maybe as a citizen of the state of Israel, partially, yeah, but not as a citizen, as a woman, as a Palestinian, etc. So I suggested, and I keep actually speaking with people, including also political leaders, about taking our citizenship as in a responsible way. Second, to start thinking about this crisis as opportunity, and in terms of activism, to start building our separate demonstrations, to do also a kind of transformation. I don't think that we have now to bring all of our problems, including the national conflict, and ending the occupation, and ending the settler colonial system between the river and the sea, to these demonstrations. We can separate tactically, not strategically, our struggle. We can focus now with our language, with our identity, with our complex identity as Palestinians, Arabs, and as citizens of the state of Israel. We can bring all of this slowly to the opposition, or to the masses who are against what's going on inside the Knesset and the government. We need to do this transformations in our minds. We need also, as political parties, as organizations, as activists, and also as scholars, to start speaking another language, and to start building this new language and this new strategy with the other side, with a so-called link center groups among the Israeli society. They need to do it as well. They need also to transform from their comfort zone and speak only about the Israeli democracy and about emphasizing democracy more than the Jewish component of the definition of the state of Israel. They should also start having these transformations in their analysis and in their minds, and actually face the reality that we don't have a usual democracy. We don't have very perfect democracy, and they should also start seeing within the Arab citizens as equal partners, that without cooperation with them, these groups, the link and center among the Jewish population, they are not, they won't actually be able to have a majority when we talk about the new elections. Besides, and another one point, the second point is for the future, for you and for all of the activists in civil society organizations and in political parties. During the last decades, all of this activism, speaking about the advancement and promoting the status of the Arab citizens and the so-called activism among shared society or building shared society. I have a very shocking news for you. Until now, we don't have shared society in Israel. We live in two parallel societies as collective groups, in terms of collective groups and in terms of really shared society. On the individual levels, yeah, we work with each other. Some of us, we go to the same malls, we go to the same hospitals. It's not really shared society. And one of the problems of building shared society during the last decades in Israel was the focus on what I call it, the rights approach. The rights approach is important, is crucial, should be also continued and implemented and to be made also in maybe a very empowered way, to speak about equal rights and to speak about equality in budget allocation and to speak about economic empowerment, etc. is very important. But we have another problem, deeper problem, that we are speaking about unequal citizenship. We are speaking about a state that defines itself as the homeland of only one of these two national groups who constitute the Israeli citizenship. We don't have a common nationality, a common ground as citizens that we can refer to, that we can feel belonging, that we can feel comfortable and natural to be in this state. And I don't think that there is a problem to start speaking about a new approach in building shared society and in building a new reality in Israel, what I call it Israeli nationality. Not only Jewish Zionist nationality and or Palestinian nationality within the Israeli citizenship, but maybe we can speak about Israeli nationality. And maybe we can speak also about multiple Israeli identities. I can be also Palestinian and Israeli citizen, and other people can be Jewish, Zionist, and also Israeli citizen. So what I call it the identities approach should not be replaced or replacing the first approach, the rights approach. We should actually work all the time between these two approaches. The last point is, maybe we should also start, all of us, not only the Jewish people, because I feel myself part of this discussion and discourse, and as part of the state of Israel and as citizen in it, I'm very concerned also in this discussion of analyzing, deciding about this formula of Israel as a Jewish and democratic state. What do we mean when we speak about Israel as democratic? What kind of democracy you would like to have? And what it means that the state of Israel is Jewish. Jewish in terms of halakha and religious laws, or Jewish in terms of being only the homeland of the Jewish people, which is actually automatically exclude any other people who don't automatically are part of the Jewish people from being equal citizens. Or actually the definition, as we see now with some of the political parties who constitute the coalition, for them, the Jewish component of the definition of the state of Israel is not only Jewish in terms of halakha, it's also in terms of of Jewish supremacy and an exclusive right for the Jewish people to be here in this land. And this is dangerous, actually. And that's why I'm concerned in opening this discussion and deciding together, how can we ensure the Jewish people, taking into consideration the whole traumatic collective memory of the Jewish people, fears, interests, etc. How can we ensure all of this? But meanwhile, take into consideration that we have a problem here since 48, and there is another group who have been here in this land and consider this place to be its also its homeland, and would like also to continue living here, be it the whole Palestinian people in general, or if we would like to speak about only the Jewish and the Palestinian Arab citizens or people who are within the Israeli citizenship. So I think the crisis that we have now in Israel, it's not only, as I said before, very, very deep, and it's going to have, or to reflect and to impact the coming years for all the people who live in this space. And maybe it's the time, 75 years after the establishment of the State of Israel, to take this crisis not only as Arab citizens, but also as Jewish Israeli citizens and as Jewish people in general, to rethink and reconsider the nature of the State of Israel and the policies we had during the last decades. Something should be changed. We are not going also to one of the discussion that I have with colleagues, with people who participate in the demonstrations, that they would like actually to go back to the days before November 2022. And actually, it's not enough. It's not going to solve any problem. We have deeper problems, not only in terms of non-equal citizenship, not only between Arab and Jewish citizens of the State of Israel, not only between the Arab citizens and the State of Israel, not only the national conflict between Palestinians and Israelis. We have deeper problems also among or within the Jewish collective, in terms of the different groups, in terms of society, and in terms of ideology, political ideology, our ideologies, in terms of what it means, or in which way this project is going to continue, and at the end, what kind of state we would like to live in.
Rula, thank you for making sure you got through the whole arc of your insights and your concepts that you wanted to share. It's so much food for thought, and it's really riveting. I have questions, but I want to make sure that we get to questions from the room before I greedily ask. Is there anybody who wants to ask anything or to make a comment clarifying about? So let people cut me off if you would like. What I'm really curious about is, where do you see? I think we've heard about it. We've heard about the concept of Israeli and Israeli nationality before. We're aware of the deeper questions always hanging around on the periphery of what we're always trying to deal with. Whether it's gaps or rights or the political discourse. It's very compelling what you're saying, that this might be an opportunity to bring the periphery into the center and make it a very manageable part of the conversation. Do you see this happening anywhere? Do you see the seed? Where do you see the seeds of this starting?
I cannot claim that I'm informed about all initiatives that emerging now and trying to deal the whole situation. I think civil society organizations can be a good player or central player, especially those who work in these in the concept of joint organizations, Jewish Arab organizations. I think they have the experience and they have the mandate and they have also the opportunity to do such a work. I have a plan actually, but I'm not an institution. I'm trying to formulate something, but the idea is, did you know about the future vision of the Arab citizens of the State of Israel, 2006, 2007? Some documents were published.
By the higher follow-up committee.
Yeah, exactly. Prior to that, we had also some similar initiatives among the Jewish population. Amanat Kineret, Chukah Behaskama. Sorry, I don't know how we call all of these initiatives on English, but I think maybe it's the time to start offering something like that, something new, but not separate, not for or from the Arab citizens alone and the Jewish people alone. I think we should start maybe imagining a new reality for the day after, because of the crisis now. I don't have any illusion that we are going to face this crisis and to overcome it in the coming months or couple of years. No, I don't have this illusion. But I think no one of us knows how things are going to develop in the coming time or in the very short-term future. But we cannot also sit aside and watch what is going to happen. We should also act.
So how can American Jews, who do you think is beginning to lead some of these? Do you feel like this is a conversation that you share with colleagues, individuals such as yourself?
Yeah, I do.
Arabs and Jews?
Yeah.
So when they come together as kind of a group or an organization with a really long, like, let us know.
Okay.
And what do you think? How do you see the role of American Jews?
Okay. Maybe 2 or 3 things. I'm trying to think very open with you. Okay. One thing is, I ask you to do a little bit transformation in your assumptions, viewing of Israel and the Arab citizens of the State of Israel. I would like to ask you to continue doing what you have been doing until now, but also to do some other things in order to have real, deep change in the State of Israel. Meanwhile, maybe the second aspect is to start working more with Jewish Israeli organizations on terms of making this shifts in their minds toward themselves, toward their citizenship, and toward the Arab citizens. You know that approximately 75%, according all of bills, that Jewish people, when you ask them if they feel good or comfortable with having more rights than the Arab citizens, they don't feel it's problematic. And it's actually a red flag. How can I accept living in a state and work with colleagues and accept that they have less rights actually than me? The third point, maybe starting also influencing political leaders and political parties to start also speak new terminology, as I ask the Arab political leaders and parties to have this transformation and to start not only acting differently, but also to start using a new terminology of accepting deeply and reconciling with the fact that we had a very difficult, very sad history between each other. But we can also, and we have also, to continue living together. And the question is, how can we reach to this vision?
Alan, please take the last.
Yeah.
question.
The last. Okay, I'm sorry. Well, just I guess what one point interesting to me, and then maybe I don't want to end on this, but it's a rather dark question afterwards. So first, the other point, which is when you talk about working with Israeli Jews, and that very sobering statistic about the number of Israeli Jews who are comfortable having a superior citizenship, right? As opposed, and have Palestinian citizens have a partial citizenship. I wonder if sort of the current crisis has just changed the rules, right? If people, my impression also is that Israelis used to talk about democracy as majority rule, and then the majority does what it wants, and now I don't think people are accepting that the way that they used to. So it's opening up this space for discourse. I mean, one day, God willing, about the occupation and things like that as well. But so that's sort of my sort of hopeful thing. And do you see any hopeful opportunities there? The other side, maybe the dark part of my question. What if this emerging regime manages to entrench itself? What options are there specifically for the Palestinian community? And how can those of us in America who have been trying to help the community, how can we help in what may be some darker times?
Yeah. I agree with you that we started, and especially during maybe the last 2 months, to see, to hear, to read new voices among people in Israel who are participate in the demonstrations. But I'm sorry to tell you that the majority is not there yet. And I don't actually blame them as individuals, because they are not aware about the whole situation. They cannot do also the connection between the whole national conflict and the failure of the Israeli democracy. They don't know a lot in details about the discrimination of the Arab citizens. I do blame the political parties, the link and center, or so-called link and center political parties, who choose not to face this situation and to offer an alternative for the right and radical right wing political parties in Israel. The other side, who sits now, who constitute now the coalition, they have clear vision, they have clear words, they have clear ideology, they have clear goals, and people usually, normal people, mainstream people, need vision, be it optimistic or less optimistic, superior or not superior, democratic or less democratic. They have a vision. They have a vision for their people, for the Jewish people, for the land, and for all of the Palestinian people from the river to the sea. And this is attractive. On the other side, the link and center political parties, they were busy since decades, or maybe especially since the failure of Oslo, only to react, and maybe not only to react, but to follow the right-wing political parties and to ignore the real political problems and not to offer an alternative vision for their people, for the state of Israel, for the Jewish people, for the Palestinian people, because of not being able to do that, and because of the fear of being more radical, or they didn't want to be more linked. They wanted to be more patriot than the ideological right political parties. And this is one of the failures of these political parties. I think, I'm not sure that they get the point. So most of the people still blend regarding the whole situation. Most people think that it's about the nature of the state of Israel, regardless of the Palestinian people, of the occupation, and I don't know how things are going to develop. I don't want to think about the second opportunity you offered, but being realistic, I have to. I don't know what's going on to be. It will be hard to be here. It will be hard for many people, not only the Arab citizens. And I think then we have two options to face together, also with you from America, the new situation and the implications of the new situation on all levels. And again, I repeat myself, I know, again, we should build an alternative. Also, when this government is going to stay for the whole 4 years, we should prepare ourselves for the coming elections. I cannot think about third opportunity.
On that note, I think I really want to wholeheartedly thank you, Rula, for sharing your insights. And I want to thank everyone for staying with us. It's past 1 o'clock, and to listen to really some of the deep opportunities. Let's start up with opportunities and challenges that Rula presents. I really hope we have a chance to bring you again, and that it was not facetious to say, as you see such initiatives coming together, I have no doubt that our members here would be very interested in knowing about them.